Alright, so I finally played the game that has all the hype in the world right now, Expedition 33. And what did I think of it? Well, I'm not going to tell you now. You got to stick around and listen. This is the loot drop. Alright, so Expedition 33. I'm not going to bury the lead here. This is an amazing game. And I do plan on doing a more in-depth spoiler review of this game. I'm actually going to have like a roundtable of people to kind of discuss it because there's so much in this game to unpack. But I just finished it a couple of days ago, and I'm still a couple of weeks out from recording that video, and I couldn't wait to be able to talk about this game. So I'm here sharing my first initial thoughts of Expedition 33. I don't have any notes in front of me. I haven't jobbled anything down. I am just coming to you as off the cusp as I possibly can about this game. So with all that being said, I definitely reserve the right to change my opinion later on down the road. But coming off of this game and playing this game, first of all, spoiler review here if you didn't get that right off the bat. This game is so incredibly beautiful. The visuals, the landscape, the world building, the creature design, the characters, everything about this game just yells passion and love and care, and in a world where everything that's ever created is a money grab. Like, we get that. Like the whole reason you make video games is to be able to make money. In a world where everything's a money grab, this game, you could feel the real love and passion by the developers coming out in this game. Was it a perfect game? No. Did it even make my top 10 of favorite video games all time? It's in the conversation. I think it's too soon for me to make that decision because I just played it. I've only played it through once. But is it at the number one for me? No. Like, it's still, if it breaks my top 10, it'll be like 9th or 10th. But with all that being said, this game is so incredibly detailed and thought out and methodical, and like, let's just start with the characters, okay? So first of all, Gustav, like, we fall in love with this guy. We feel for him. The game did something that it hadn't I hadn't felt in a video game since I first played The Last of Us, where you get 10, 15, 20 minutes into the gameplay and you're just devastated. Like, the death of Sarah in The Last of Us, like, it just hit me so hard because it just, I wasn't expecting that, right? Well, here, when Gustav loses his girl, his loved one, I was just left speechless. I was like, what is happening in this world? Like, what is this game? And I knew very little about it. And I stayed away from a lot of spoilers going into this game. And so the fact that I was able to go into it with really knowing nothing about it other than watching a few spoiler-free reviews, shout out to the Dad Man on YouTube, putting together a great spoiler-free review of Expedition 33 that really led me to want to play this, and a great spoiler review of Expedition 33. He'll be sitting in on the round table for us. But all I knew was just a few basic storylines and just a little bit of like some people's review of the game. And yeah, like, this thing did not disappoint. So, looking at from a storyline perspective, you have this world where you're unsure of what's causing the death when people turn, in this game specifically, they turn 34 years old, they die. And then you got 33, 32, whatever, right, as you go on. But what was incredible was the fact that, like, how they hooked you right at the very beginning of this game to get you so invested in Gustav, just to fucking take him away from us at the beginning of Act 2, and they give us Verso. I was like, who the fuck is Verso? And I was so, like, emotionally invested in Gustav's story that I was, again, left speechless in this game. And you're talking about from 20 minutes in to 20 hours in, the game continued to still surprise me at every turn. And then when you get through Act 2, You start to go into Act 3. You realize who Verso actually is, the story of the Paintress, the family line aspect of it, and then obviously who Alicia, it ends up being Marley, or however you pronounce it, her name in the game. Um, all that was so well done. And you don't get that kind of character development without a great story behind it. So, as far as that goes, storyline, this game was just top notch. It really was. What I loved more, however, than the story, and loved more, however, than the characters, was the visuals. The creature designs of this game were haunting. Like there were so many creatures that I remember like running into and seeing in this game, thinking to myself, like, this is like nightmarish shit. Where at the beginning when you get on the beach, right, and Verso's like kicking everyone's ass, you fight, see the creature, like the hands over the face, and whoever designed the creatures for this game, I want to take you to lunch. I want to pick your fucking brain. I want to know what demons you have inside of you and how you turned it into such beautiful art. Along with the the creature design, the landscape of this world, there was so much to explore. In fact, honestly, I'll get to one of my complaints about the game here in a second, though. There was so much to explore in this game, and so many different landscapes to explore, and nothing felt repetitive. And that is true attention to every aspect of the game. Even when you started going through like the little creature dudes, the guy that you end up fighting in the arenas, and they barter with you, and you can trade and buy goods from. I don't remember what they're called, but even every time you found them, they were so all uniquely different, and it could have been really easy to do a copy and paste, but the developers didn't. They really took time to make sure that every aspect of your experience when you were in this world was so different. To the point where at the end of the game, if you watch my daily gaming journals, I said the visuals at the end of the game felt off to me, because it just felt like because you're in Lemire, right? You're getting ready to go fight Rainier, and you are walking through the town, and it's all the same as far as like these like vines growing up and destroying all the the buildings and everything, and the way that destruction looked. It felt very, like I said this in the review, like a Spider-Man game, like the PS2 Spider-Man game, where the symbiotes and Venom are like creeping all over the buildings and taking over, and it felt rushed towards the end of the game. It's really my only complaint of the visuals. Aside from that, it was great, and that was a small portion of my complaint for it, because when you get to the fight with with Rainier, the visuals in that fight were breathtaking. Like, I think that was the coolest part about the game for me, was every battle came with its own very unique feel. I didn't care for the pairing, however you pronounce it. I wasn't a fan of that, but it did start to grow on me. There's a couple things I wish the game would have done. First, with the combat system, I wish it would have gave us a little bit of a I guess a trigger, or some kind of timing mechanism to know when to go ahead and hit the buttons in order to block and to pair, because it drove me crazy, because every creature had 2 or 3 different attack types, and I know that's a challenge of the game, but they have 2 or 3 different attack types, and you had to kind of learn them and figure it out as you went. And what the problem was that you sometimes, because you were exploring so much, like, you would eventually forget what they were, and it made the combat a little frustrating at times. And for me, like, that's just the kind of gamer I am, though. Like, if you're someone who really loves the challenge of like the combat and things like that, I'm sure you love that aspect of it. Me, I care more about the storyline and the campaign, so that frustrated me a lot in this game. So I will say I wish that there could have been something there. I'm fine with the combat in general. I think that I think at the end of the day, although I didn't really care for it right at first, I think at the end of the day, it was done really well. Um, but again, I just wish there was a little bit more of a help or a cheat to be able to kind of figure that out a little bit more. But my biggest complaint about the game, and I will die on this fucking hill, is that the game should have had a map. Like, I understand, like, people, every time I brought that up, people are like, well, it encourages you to explore. That's all well and good. Like, I can appreciate that. But having a map would have helped me explore more, because there were times that I found myself, like, I would go down somewhere that I thought would be, like, a little bit of a dead end for me. Um, and I wouldn't advance the storyline of the game. And then turn out that I was heading in the right direction, and there was not a chance for me to really go back, at least not easily enough. So I think if there had been a map, like, it doesn't have to be like, something super, descriptive, like we're mapping out your trail and what path you need to walk, but give me a general idea of which way to go. So if I'm not heading that direction, I know that I'm truly exploring. That was probably my biggest complaint about the game. And if this game doesn't make it into my top 10 of all time, that's going to be on the top of the list of the reasons why, because it really did. It frustrated the hell out of me that it didn't have a map. Same thing with Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima was the same way. But Ghost of Tsushima did a good job of using the wind to be able to direct you in the direction you needed to go, so that you knew if you weren't heading towards the wind, you weren't heading in the direction you needed to go, and it gave you a chance to go explore elsewhere. Now that's a little bit more open world than this was, but yeah, I think it needed a map. It really did. And again, I will die on that hill. I think that this game would have been significantly better with a map. But here's the big one, right? The game makes you make a decision at the end of the game on how this plays out. And I didn't expect that, because when it turns out that the young girl, was the key to all this and all that kind of stuff, honestly, I had never really fought with her until I had to. And so I wasn't truly invested in her. So, but when Act 3 came around, I was like, okay, whatever. When I got my party back, I never played with her either then, because I was stuck with Verso, Nakomo, whatever his name is, and then the girl that always walked around barefooted, fucking gross. Those are my three main party members, so I always fought with them. So I never really fought with Alicia. And so when the fight with Rainier happened, and you get to the very end, and you go to hit that last big hit to be able to kill Rainier, and the cutscene comes around and she's the one that does it. I was like, this is dumb. I was like, why is she popping into this? If you wanted me to have that kind of emotional attachment to her, then you should have forced me to play with her earlier in the game and not give me that option. All of that quickly got pushed aside when you're in the canvas and you're trying to figure out, like, if Verso goes in there to see his child self, and you're given the decision to decide, do you destroy the canvas or do you keep the canvas? And I was shocked by how difficult of a decision that really was for me, considering that I had never played with her a majority of the game. I have not seen her decision. I went with Verso, and that decision was still a little heartbreaking. But I hear the decision for her was not only a little bit heartbreaking, but that it was almost borderline cruel. But I haven't seen it, I haven't watched it yet, so that may not be 100% accurate. But that's what I hear, and I think that's if that's the case, that's incredible storytelling of this game, and the fact that again it allowed you to be able to make the decision at the end to decide what you wanted to do. It did nothing but take me back. My favorite video game of all time is The Last of Us. And what I love about that game is that it sparks conversation that if you were Joel, what would you have done with Ellie at the end of that game? Is it worth one life to sacrifice the rest of the world If you have a chance to save everybody, shouldn't you take it? And is that one more important than everyone else? And I think that there's obviously different ways to look at that, and you're playing the whole game through Joel's perspective. So you're clearly, I mean, most of us, I think, if given the decision, would have picked to go save Ellie, but it didn't give us the decision. We just did what Joel decided to do in that game, but it still sparked the conversation. And with this game, not only did it spark great conversation about the ending of the story, but it gave us the decision. And I I will tell you that I think that made the game. For as great as everything was leading up to it, and it was, the game was phenomenal. That decision in the game to allow us to determine the outcome, that was so fucking smart by the game developers. I mean, so incredibly smart. And I think that game would have been a, top, I don't know, definitely a top, 50-ish game of all time, storyline, everything like that. But I think because it gave us that option, I think for a lot of us fans of the video game genre, I think it's definitely going to make this a very difficult decision if this game is a top 10 of all time, because just having that kind of investment in the characters and then allowing us to make their decision, just such a smart move. So if you can't tell, I love this game. I really did. I probably will play through it again, give it some time. I have a few more games that I want to play, but this game is really a great game that is set up for a second playthrough. So I'm looking forward to be able to revisit it and go back to this world. When we do our roundtable, I think we're going to have a lot of really cool and different, interesting viewpoints. So make sure to come back and check that out. We're going to air that closer to the Game of the Year awards. But my question to you, if you're watching this, what did you think of the game? Were you as much of a fan of it as I was? And, as of right now, I'm recording this on November 24th. Is this Game of the Year? Did this game lock itself in as Game of the Year? It's already sweeping other award shows. But I'm curious, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I would love to be able to engage in conversation with you. This is a spoiler review, so if you are watching this and you are commenting, just know it's safe. Drop spoilers. People they first of all, I'm sure I'm like one of the last few people on the planet to play this game, but yeah, I just want to be able to keep talking about it. I want to be able to revisit this world with you guys, and yeah, I'm just looking forward to that roundtable discussion. So make sure to come back and check it out with us. So thank you guys for checking out this review of Expedition 33, and remember to always like and subscribe and all the other kind of fun stuff. Thank you guys, and yeah, go play it.